Now, we have just a few minutes left. Dr. Walker has a plane to catch, but we have some questions we want to go through, and so we're going to do them in a rapid-fire kind of way. And I want you to hit us as hard as you possibly can, okay?
Okay.
All right. Here it comes. Here's the first question.
Okay.
How do I minister to someone whom I know and love, but who identifies as a homosexual? How do I do this without compromising my faith?
Yeah. Very practically, I think sometimes what we have to do, and I'm going to be very abbreviated so that we can get to more questions. We need to demythologize or not think that homosexuality is like the one sin that makes someone else completely untouchable, okay? It's one manifestation of sin. Everyone else in here likely has their own unique manifestation of sin. What we tend to do is to take the sins that we are least familiar with and place a higher level of stigma around that. And I know that this is a challenging topic because our culture is saying yes, 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 and the Bible says no. But let's remember, every person is made in the image of God. What does every person made in the image of God desire? They desire respect. They desire kindness. They desire dignity. And guess what? It's really, really possible to say to someone, I love you, I care for you, I disagree with you. I hope that my disagreement on this particular issue isn't one that's going to cause you to to pull away from me. But we just need to understand that sinners are sinners. There's no special class of sinners. And we just need to extend the same type of charity and kindness and love that we would be willing to extend to anyone, any type of sinner.
Okay, great. Thank you. How do I relate to an extended family member's son identifying as a female and the parents support it? How would we handle this in public settings such as family gatherings? Maybe a pronoun use, I don't know, maybe behind the question.
So I would say that you need to show love to your family, love to this individual who's identifying this way. You're not responsible for what that family does. You're not responsible for what that individual does. You're responsible for your household and for your children. And so it means before you go trying to correct someone else's family or to correct someone else, you are, as a family, talking about these issues so that if you decide to go to the family dinner where this family is there or this person is there, you have preemptively done the work on the front end on how you're going to think about, how you're going to talk to this individual, how you're going to relate to this individual. I always like the idea of, to the extent possible, planning in advance, not waiting until the moment to have these conversations, but thinking about, okay, we're likely to experience X, Y, or Z. In the event that we do, how should we be ready for that? And again, that's a question of love, dignity, charity. It doesn't mean affirmation and agreement. At the risk of, I could speak for another 20 minutes on this question.
Please don't.
So yeah. Let me keep going.
I just would be curious, just very quickly, what do you say about pronouns?
Yep. If you're really careful, you don't have to use pronouns.
Okay.
Number two, I would never encourage someone to use preferred pronouns because I think that is, there's a language game at play, and pronouns are not just a linguistic reality. Pronouns are trying to give name to reality.
Okay.
And so I would avoid them, not use them if asked. If you're ever asked to state a pronoun, I would simply say, with all due respect, I do not state my preferred pronoun, but I'm happy to be here and excited to get to know all of you. If you're interested in more of this, I wrote an article. It's online through the ERLC's website. He, she, Zer, understanding. He's confused, like he, she, Zer. It's okay about that.
Yeah.
There's a lot more I could say here. I know we're running short on time. Don't use pronouns. Okay. But there's more out there. Google my name and pronouns. That sounds self-important, but there you go.
You are important.
Okay. Well.
All right. Number three.
Yeah.
In the future, I will be required to co-lead a significant project with a person who makes her identity publicly known as being LGBTQ owned. Should I remove myself from this project? Her entity is publicly known as being LGBTQ owned. Should I remove myself from the project or the job?
If the project and the job requires you to speak falsehood, then potentially yes. But employees have civil liberties protections as well. You have speech protections. You can file lawsuits. You can talk to HR. It's not immediately quit your job. It's state a concern with HR that can be elevated to a civil rights offense, the Civil Rights Act. It's violation of free speech. But potentially, yes, if it becomes a hostile working environment and you're having to violate your conscience, then potentially, yes.
Okay. What to say to my middle school aged children who think they are LGBTQ? How do you navigate this as a teacher?
As a teacher of kids,
middle school aged kids who think they're LGBTQ, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, a lot of this depends. I'm assuming this is a public school context.
Okay.
A lot of that depends on what you're allowed to say in a public school context. If your public school context has a non-discrimination ordinance based on sexual orientation and gender identity, you could get in trouble for speaking your convictions on the matter. The general advice I have with young people who are exploring these ideologies, and if you don't know them very well, or depending on the context being one where it's kind of a superficial relationship, like a classroom setting, ask questions, get clarifying questions. I try to ask questions that can sow some doubt in someone's mind. So if someone came to me who was 18 and said, I want to transition to live as the opposite sex, I would say, well, have you looked at the studies that indicate that people who transition are still disproportionately unhappy? So I would want to create levels of question and doubt in their minds from having them believe that at an impressionable age, like a junior higher, that they're defined by a sexual ideology. That's such a radical new way to conceive of who we are as human beings. As a junior high schooler, I would have known that I thought girls were cute, but I would never have conceived of myself as having a sexual identity like we're taught to today. A lot of this means just also we need to get hypersexualization out of as many contexts as possible, which is hard to do in our situation.
Okay. My toddler daughter loudly asked, "Mom, is that a boy or a girl?" at the grocery store. The person was clearly transgender. Since the person who was right in front of me, how should I have responded?
To the child or to the individual? Okay. To the child, I would say, Johnny or Susie, let's talk about that in a little bit when we get to the car. Again, these are hypothetical. These are weird scenarios to have to envision.
Sorry, brothers, my people.
If it's an individual who is personally insulted, I mean, a part of me says here, like,
A little child shall lead them.
little children often can tell the truth.
Right.
And the natural law finds a way to reassert itself with young eyes
Yeah.
and young minds. So I would say in all those situations, just be as kind as possible. You don't have to be a culture warrior in all of the moments of parenting, but try to redirect and have a private conversation.
Well done.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a child who has a same-sex preference. I love my child deeply, but I want to understand how to support them while still honoring my faith. How should I approach this as a Christian parent to my child or grandchild?
Yeah, I mean, this is where There is no command in the Bible that says if you have an LGBT kid, that you have to disown the kid. There was something in like evangelicalism that was taught in the 1990s or early 2000s that suggested that a gay kid means you have to disown the kid, okay? A kid is a kid regardless of how they're living, okay? What you want to communicate is your undying, unfailing love for your child. And if it's an honest relationship, to be able to say, I love you regardless of how I think you're wrong. You're my child no matter how wrong I think you are. I have no desire to part ways with you as a child. At that point, it's on the child if they want to pull back from the relationship. I can't control what that child is going to do. I want to communicate that I'm going nowhere. I love you. Let's maintain this relationship while at the same time owning the differences of our convictions and figuring out a way to love each other amidst those convictions.
Great. Well said. Good job. When do you say is the appropriate age for students to have their own cell phones? How do you go about implementing limits and new boundaries? You talked about that.
Yeah, I mean, so again, it's a wisdom question. I think that's a question dependent upon whether your child in particular is ready for a phone. Not all 13-year-olds are the same at their adolescence and their maturity. So my general wisdom would be push giving them a phone to as late as is possible. General principle, I would say. Second principle is if you give them a phone, take the time to figure out how to use the parental controls, okay? So delay as much as possible and then use the controls.
Great. I have never limited screen usage for my children. How do I set new limits and boundaries? So we're coming from having no limits to setting them.
Call a family meeting.
A what?
And a family meeting. Yeah. Bring them all. Sit. We have family meetings. We have family meetings, and it's a good thing.
All right, good, all right?
Sit them down, have a family meeting, say, hey, I know that we've had this attitude towards technology. We're going to start something new. We're not going to go from all technology to no technology, but we've actually been convinced that maybe complete and total unrestricted access is not the best thing for you, and so we need you to trust us that putting some controls in place is in your best interest, and so we're going to give you an hour a day on the weekdays and maybe 2 hours a day on the weekend, and just begin from there.
Okay, this will be the last question.
Okay.
How do we handle the ethical issues with AI from a Christian perspective? Is it appropriate for me to use AI to help with papers, schoolwork, sermons, etc.?
Oh gosh. Okay. A huge question. A huge question.
I have lots of friends that somehow or other the chat TGP or whatever they're using, whatever it's called, they're like, it's helping them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, I'm not a total prohibitionist. I think there can be legitimate uses for AI, okay? There can be. We need to develop categories to think about how can AI be a supplement? How can it be, or can it be a substitute? How can it unintentionally harm us? So there are studies already being done called cognitive offload problems. Yeah, cognitive offloading, where people who are over-relying on AI are finding it difficult to think for themselves and difficult to write papers themselves. So here's my one suggestion to students. You should absolutely not use AI for composing your work. Because what it means to be a student is to learn to do those things on your own, to develop the muscle to be able to compose. My concern is we're going to develop into a post-compositional society where people can't even really write sentences anymore, okay? Could you use ChatGPT for sermon research? Yes, I believe you could. Should you use ChatGPT to write your sermon? No. Have I used ChatGPT to help me think of an illustration for a sermon? Yes, I have. And why is that okay, in my opinion? Because I could you might have books in your library which are just like illustration books,
Right.
Or those types of books, right?
Yeah, I understand.
That's no different than AI in its own way. So, his eyes are always just so telling, right? I can't tell if he thinks I'm an idiot or if he thinks I'm brilliant. Maybe it's somewhere in between, right?
So
A brilliant idiot, one of those two.
Supposed to use it or not? Are we supposed to? And how do you use it?
You go to ChatGPT.com.
Oh. All right, y'all, sermons are getting ready to get really good around here.
No, I would simply say, if AI is going to cause you to violate your integrity and violate your conscience, don't use it. But make sure your conscience is properly calibrated according to Scripture. Use it as a supplement and maybe as a research assistant, not as a substitute or a replacement for work that you are either incapable of doing yourself or just don't want to do.
There you go. Well done.
All right.
Let's say thank you to Brother Dr. Andrew Walker.